Yeah. Oh, the thing we haven't talked about is in chapter 18. Okay, what about when your rhythm section players are soloists?
Yeah, yeah, I remember I was excited when I was going through the chapters and I got to that one. I was like, oh, good, because I've kind of wondered
Because
about that.
most of the time they're comping for your other soloists from the horn section, but here we're okay. Now it's a solo for one of them. Well, we talked about on the piano a minute ago that he may comp in the left hand while he plays, but his right hand is going to be doing the same kind of stuff the horns are doing.
Yeah.
And if he's not capable of comping with the left hand and soloing with the right hand, the guitar player comps for him, and then he just plays in the right hand and let the guitar player or the vibes player comp for him.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
And your guitar player, if he's playing a solo, it's really the same thing. He's doing single line stuff for the most part. That's the same as the horn players. They of course both have the capacity of playing stuff that's block chord harmony type things that the horn players can't do. That can be very effective. And the guitar player can play octaves. A guy, a guitar player by the name of Wes Montgomery, made this very famous sound of playing in octaves.
Hmm.
And Kristen Bromley did that quite a bit on the recording we made recently. She played some things in octaves, but it's a Wes Montgomery sound when you play in octaves like that. But
Yeah.
so there are some things that are unusual that those instruments can do that the horn players can't do. That piano player, when he plays block chords and almost plays like what the whole big band's playing with those kind of rhythms and big sound. Wow, it can build a lot of intensity. It's
Hmm. Yeah.
really pretty cool. And if your bass player is soloing, sometimes your bass player best he does is like walk another line while he's soloing. You hoping that he's going to do more than that, that he'll free up and play more like a horn player. Again, I think really all three of those instruments you want to play more like a horn player. Eddie Gomez is one of my favorite bass players for as a soloist because he was solo on the bass just like it was a saxophone.
Cool.
The drummer, though, of course, drum solos are very different. The what,
Yeah.
what do you do with a drum solo? Well, a good drum solo hopefully has some thematic elements that are repeated, so that there's a motivic kind of thing that helps to tie it together. It's going to be mostly a rhythmic motif, probably, but it could also be a motif that involves, on the drums, you have short sounds and long sounds. It might involve a combination of short and long sounds that you keep, or hopefully there's some kind of something holding it together as a,
Yeah.
so it has some cohesiveness, and also let's hope that it has a shape so that it builds to a peak. However, that's a longer drum solo. Sometimes the drum solo is just like more like longer fills, where
Yeah.
the drummer's playing as fast and loud as he can. The band plays the next hit, and he keeps playing hit, and then finally the last chord. That kind of stuff happens. Well, in that case, the drummer's probably going to be playing more intensely in each of the fills. But if it's a longer solo, I'll give you an example. We played a Dizzy Gillespie chart with a band called Things to Come,
Hmm.
and it's a fast thing. That's the bridge, and the trumpets are playing that line. That's the sax line at the beginning.
Hmm.
It's ripping. And when we get to the drum solo, it's like pop, 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 let up, bow. Drum fills up for the rest of the 8 bars. Again, pop, 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 let up, bow. Drum fills up. This time we opened it. The drummer keeps playing. So the band has really kicked him in strong.
Hmm.
So he's going to be playing really strong. And then he kind of gradually is going to bring it down. I said, bring it down to nothing after a minute. You come in strong and then bring it down to nothing. We can barely hear you play, or we may wonder if you're still playing. And then you just start building, and gradually it builds, and
Hmm.
it gets built, and it keeps building until it's just like this ferocious climactic thing. And then we go, I bring the band in on the bridge.
Yeah.
And so effective when there's a shape like that. And I remember too, like Woody Herman on the end of the uh, La Fiesta, Chick Corea tune that was done for Woody Herman's band. And at the end, ba dee da da dee da. Let's see, how does that work? I can't quite get it back. But the drummer, when I saw Woody's band play this live,
Hmm.
the drummer just got this sing on the cymbals and went until the cymbals was like and the band came at the peak of that. I was like, whew.
Yeah,
It really had an effect. It wasn't just like hitting things.
yeah,
There
that's
was
cool.
a musical purpose to it, and it really helped the music. I think that's the big thing about the drum solo. So,
Definitely.
but pay attention to this when you're listening. Oh, what's the drummer doing to make the solo effective? Maybe it's not effective. Actually, I don't think it's very effective. Oh, that one's effective. What is that guy doing to make that effective? And that's when you learn. You analyze. Yeah, I mean, you're a strong musician. You just have to use your ears a little bit, and you learn a lot.
Yeah, yeah. No, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense.
By the way, I will say this too about comping. The piano player and the guitar player, we talked about not being competitive with each other. There's times when the piano player could be, or the guitar player could be competitive against the whole band. So the whole band ensemble is playing, and they're playing a big ensemble section that's got a lot of intensity, and the piano player is playing really busy, comping against that. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
In fact, some astute writers will actually write a rest for the piano during that time.
Hmm. Okay.
They don't want the piano cluttering it up some more. It's going to be busy enough with the horns.
That
Uh,
makes
a
sense.
wise piano player would probably lay out during a really intense ensemble plays like that and just not get in the way.
Right.
And watch for a chance to throw in a little lick, a little feel, a little.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
So probably almost exactly opposite of what most students are going to think at first. They're
yeah,
going to think, oh, this is a big part. There's lots going on, so I should do lots.
yeah.
That's just going to muddy it up.
Right, right. You don't want the piano comping to be competitive with the band figures.
Yeah.
Just complementary. And so you say, let's see, where's my chance to complement this and put a little tasty cherry
Um,
on top.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Some great examples of that in the Thad Jones, Mel Lewis band stuff, where the piano player just lays out and then they put a little tasty. Basie does that too a lot of times, where he doesn't really play during that time. He plays pretty sparse anyway, and then he'll just put a little blank.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Cool.
just in the right place. You go, ooh, yeah, that's nice. It's quite an art to get a rhythm section functioning.
Yeah, yeah, and I I feel like I finally have at least an idea of where to go.
Yeah.
I still have a ton to learn, a ton to listen to really get my.
When I've been up against an important time, and I really want, like for example, how long has it been ago? I don't know, about three, maybe 3 years ago. I don't know. We played at the Jazz Education Network conference in Dallas
Mhm.
3 or 4 years ago, and I just wanted my all my sections to be tip top. I mean, we're showcasing the program in front of the whole jazz world. The biggest jazz conference, and I wanted my rhythm section to just be really happening. So I brought in a drummer, a bass player, a piano player, and a guitar player, and they all came in and worked with my rhythm section.
Cool.
And that's a great way to go. And if I have a group, maybe the drummer's saying, "Well, try this, try this." I say, "Why don't you sit down there and play it? Show him what you mean is that. Let him watch you play it." If they're not hip to that, I would encourage that. Say, "No, let him watch you play that." It's like, "Yeah, okay, let me try that."
Yeah, yeah.
a picture's worth a thousand words, and just having some really excellent help come in once in a while is a good use of some of your band funds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just having somebody come in and work with the whole band once in a while is a good thing. I've done a lot of that with different bands, but having somebody specialized to come in and work with your rhythm section, where that you feel like that's maybe a weak point for you, and then what are you doing? You're watching, you're observing, and writing notes, and then next time you work with them, you've got some ideas that you didn't have before. And you know, plus every time I went to a conference, I would go to the rhythm section sessions,
Hmm.
and I'd be learning everything I could about the rhythm section all the time. I do that with any of them. I mean, I remember being at this IAGA conference, and it was like 40 trombone players in this room, and I was like the only guy in the room that wasn't a trombone player. But I was learning, and I was oddly enough, I was the one asking all the questions. So I guess maybe it's like, who is this guy? Get him out of here. But you know, that's my chance to learn from really great players, and I've over the years, you know, I've gone to a lot of clinics and things and asked questions and learned everything I can. So
Yeah, yeah.
no reason not to. Get your
Right,
money's
right.
worth wherever you are. Get your money's worth.
I agree. I agree.
But you know, you're likely you're most likely to go to a conference and you go to the French horn session. Well, no, it's really much more important that you go to the drum session.
Yeah, yeah. The stuff that I don't already know about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
It might be cool to go to the horn section and just kind of hang out, but you're going to learn a lot more that you need at that drum session,
Yep.
or maybe at the piano session or a rhythm section oriented session or whatever. You know.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How have you felt about the book? Has it been valuable to you?
Yeah, it's been super super valuable, um, and I think a lot of its big value. It's in a lot of ways it's kind of a big picture. You know, here's all of these different things that you've got to make sure you're thinking about,
Hmm.
and in a handful of things like articulation and style, it really goes pretty deep. And then in a handful of other things, it's like here's some of the stuff you really need, and here's the direction to go so you can keep
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
At least that's what I felt like, and so I feel like
Again.
it's been really really valuable. I keep forgetting to ask you a question quick about some theory stuff we talked about before. I think it'll only take 2 minutes to answer, maybe not
Okay.
even that. And as I look through charts trying to understand them, I often come across a six chord, and I don't know that we talked about that at all.
Yeah, you know we didn't. You're right. If you see a like if it says C6,
Yeah.
what that means is it's a major triad, 135 plus 6. So
Okay.
it'd be 1 3 5 6, and of course, since everything goes to the nine, it's going to have a nine. So it'll be 1 3 1 3 5 6 9. So
Mhm.
it's just six instead of seven,
Okay. Okay.
and actually, uh, six. It sounds a little different if the rhythm section or if the horns were voiced this way to play. Like the old swing charts always ended with a six chord, and it has a little different sound than if you end with the major seven sound in there. But as far as improvisation, there's no difference. You improvise on either of them the same way because on the major chord, on the seven chord, you can play the six, and on the six chord, you can play the seven. And so
Okay. Yeah.
when I'm having kids read chord symbols out of the fake book and it'll say F6, just play F major seven. Don't worry about the six. You know, it's not that big a deal.
Okay. Yeah.
But the rhythm section should actually play the six if it's written because that's a specific sound. But it doesn't make much difference to your improviser.
Okay. That makes sense. So
You
yeah.
can have a minor six chord too, and if you write a minor six chord, then it's one flat 3 5 6, which if you invert it, turns out to be a half diminished chord. So most of the time, if I see a minor six chord, I just fix it to be a half diminished chord.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but the major six is a valid sound, and you should play this on the piano. Play a major seven to the nine, and then play a major six to the nine, and you'll hear a difference in the sound a little bit, and you'll say, "Oh yeah, that does sound like the last chord of a lot of those old swing charts. Is be the sixth."
Uh-huh. Yeah, the six is there a lot, but it really doesn't change the way. Just make sure I understand. It really doesn't change the way someone would improvise over that chord, but it would
No,
change maybe the rhythm section, the way they interpret
right.
the
Yeah, they
comp.
play that sound, but what I choose to play as an improviser is the same notes. It doesn't really matter. Just major. It can look like it's a dominant chord since it just says C6. There's no major symbol in there,
Hmm.
but it's a major chord. It's only dominant if you have a seven.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Appreciate
great
all that
question.
you're offering and helping me understand.
That's a great question. I'm glad you thought of that. I didn't think to mention it. But if I'm sitting here with a student and he's reading out of the fake book, and then I'd say, "Oh, these six chords," we
Right.
didn't anything to trigger that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It just never came up. So and then I when I was reading through some a while ago, and then I keep meaning to ask you. So
yeah.